She came with nothing but a second-hand violin and a dream. The elite teacher mocked her, but what she did next left an entire room breathless. This is not just about music, it's about heart. At the heart of a grand music academy, known for its glossy floors, polished instruments, and students dressed in tailored uniforms, a quiet tension hangs in the air. The kind of place where reputation speaks louder than words, and talent is expected to come packaged in perfection. The double doors to the main rehearsal hall swing open, and in walks a girl, plain, unnoticed by the world. Her clothes are modest, faded in places, and her shoes bear the weight of long walks and harder days. In her hand, she clutches a worn-out violin case, its fabric fraying at the corners, the zipper half broken, the surface scratched with years of use. Heads begin to turn. Whispers rise and fall as students, accustomed to wealth and polish, assess her without a word. Some exchange glances, others smile mockingly, but the girl remains silent, her eyes scanning the unfamiliar room. At the front, the elite teacher, sharp-suited, with a reputation carved from decades of discipline, observes her entrance with a single raised eyebrow. His eyes narrow slightly. With a voice laced in dry sarcasm, he calls out, "Interesting. Let's hope your talent isn't as tired as your violin." Laughter bubbles from the students, not loud but sharp enough to sting. The girl pauses, barely reacting, then simply gives a small nod and walks slowly to a seat at the back of the room, unnoticed now by the teacher, who has already turned away. She places the violin case beside her on the floor, resting her hand gently on it, as if to say, "It's okay, we're still here." The elite teacher moves on without delay, clapping his hands once for silence. He announces an upcoming performance test, explaining that each student will present a solo piece by the end of the week. "This," he says, pacing slowly in front of the class, "will separate the serious musicians from the rest." His eyes land directly on the girl as he finishes the sentence, his voice tinged with dismissive certainty. A hush settles over the room. No one speaks, but the message is clear. As the class is dismissed, students gather their things and file out, their chatter resuming like a distant wave. The girl remains seated for a moment longer. She leans down and opens her violin case just enough to reveal the old wooden instrument inside. Her fingers touch the strings softly, not to play, just to feel. Her expression is calm, but there's something deep behind her eyes. Not fear, not pride, something steadier, determined. The room empties, but she sits still, her silence stronger than all the laughter from before. The girl returns each evening to a dimly lit room tucked away in a crowded corner of the city. The walls are thin, the space small yet filled with quiet warmth. Her mother, weary from long shifts and aching hands, greets her with a tired smile. She offers food she can barely afford and asks how the day went, though she already knows the answer from her daughter's silence. On the table, a faded photograph leans against the wall, her father, gently cradling a violin, his eyes kind and proud. The girl looks at it for a moment, then opens her case. The violin isn't much to look at, but to her, it's a memory, a legacy, and a promise. She raises the bow and begins to play, not for anyone else, but to remember his voice telling her, "It's not the instrument, it's the heart behind it." At school, the contrast is harsh. The halls echo with polished shoes and polished performances. The elite teacher calls her out often, correcting her posture, her technique, even the way she holds the bow. His tone is clipped, unforgiving, as though every mistake proves she doesn't belong. Around her, students whisper during breaks. They question why someone with no proper training, no style, no name, was ever accepted here. Her silence makes her an easy target. One morning during a group performance, she misses a single note. The teacher halts the entire session. Coldly, he says, "This is not a charity." His words hang in the air longer than the music. But while the others go home to private tutors and expensive practice rooms, she stays behind. The auditorium, now empty and echoing, becomes her haven. She sets up in the corner, copying sheet music from borrowed books in the library, learning unfamiliar names, mimicking the movements of famous violinists she's never seen in real life. She plays in whispers at first, hesitant, then louder as she finds her rhythm. She begins to experiment, taking technical pieces and weaving in her own feeling, creating something different, something hers. One afternoon, as the sun slants through the tall windows, a fellow student pauses in the doorway. They watch her without a word. Her music fills the silence between them. The student leaves without speaking, but something in their eyes has shifted. At home, her mother notices the blisters forming on her fingers. She applies ointment carefully, her hands trembling. The girl, almost in a whisper, says, "Just one performance. That's all I need." Her voice doesn't waver. Neither does her will. She walks slowly to the center of the stage, her shoes quiet against the wooden floor, her eyes fixed downward. In her hands, the same old violin, scratched, faded, and loved. The murmurs in the room grow as she takes her place. Some students lean toward each other, whispering. A few smirk. The elite teacher watches, arms crossed, already expecting failure. She raises the violin, her fingers trembling for just a moment before finding their place. The bow touches the strings. The first notes float into the air, soft, uncertain, like a fragile memory taking shape. The chatter fades. Chairs stop creaking. The room leans in. She continues, her eyes closed now, the notes slowly growing stronger. Each phrase carries emotion, sorrow wrapped in beauty, heartache softened by hope. The melody doesn't follow a known path. It weaves its own journey, rising and falling like the rhythm of a story only she can tell. The elite teacher lowers his clipboard, forgetting to write. Students stop fidgeting. Some grip the edge of their chairs. Even the faculty shift forward. Her bow moves with growing intensity, every movement precise yet unrestrained. Her music tells of long nights, whispered lessons, a quiet promise made beside an old photograph. Pain is there, but so is love. Loss, but also light. The sound fills every corner of the room. As she nears the end, she leans into the final notes, her whole body pouring into them. There's no hesitation, no fear, just raw honesty. The last note lingers in the air, delicate but unshakable. Then silence. Heavy, stunned silence. And then applause. A wave of clapping that grows louder, fuller, real. Some students stand, a few have tears in their eyes. The elite teacher remains seated at first, frozen. Then, slowly, he claps. His face is unreadable at first, but then something cracks. Awe, maybe even regret. Under his breath, he says, I was wrong." As the applause continues, the doors at the back open. The principal steps in, having caught the final moments. He looks around, surprised by the reaction. His eyes move to the girl on stage. "Who composed that piece?" he asks. She holds the violin close to her chest, her voice soft but steady. "I did," she says. "It's dedicated to my father." The morning after the performance, the atmosphere in the academy feels different. The usual whispers that once followed the girl through the halls now carry a new tone, no longer taunting or doubtful. Now they are filled with awe, curiosity, and respect. Students who once avoided her approach with hesitant smiles, some offering compliments, others just nodding, unsure how to express what her music had stirred in them. The girl accepts it all quietly, her demeanor unchanged, though something softer flickers in her eyes. When the elite teacher enters the classroom, the usual clatter and chatter fade. He walks in slowly, his gaze settling on the girl first. There's no smirk, no sarcasm. Instead, his voice is calm, deliberate. "Yesterday," he says, pausing, "I witnessed more than skill. I witnessed soul. That is true music." He doesn't apologize, not directly, but his tone speaks louder than words ever could. After class, he calls her to his desk. Without ceremony, he places a worn leather folder in front of her. Inside is his private collection of rare sheet music, pieces he's never shared with any student. "Use it well," he says simply, and turns away. She opens the folder slowly, eyes wide, as if holding a piece of history. Soon, the academy announces a formal event to showcase student talent. Her name is not just on the list, it's at the top. When she steps onto the stage again, the announcer introduces her as the one who reminded us what music truly means. This time, the applause comes before she even plays. At home, her mother waits with a letter in hand, her eyes shining with disbelief. It's from the guest who had sat silently in the back row during the performance. Moved beyond words, they have offered the girl a full scholarship to continue her studies. The mother clutches the letter with trembling fingers, a tear slipping down her cheek as her daughter reads it aloud. The final scene unfolds in the Academy's grand auditorium. The girl stands alone under the soft stage lights, rehearsing for her next performance. Her violin, still the same weathered instrument, has been carefully polished. Not replaced, only honored. She plays a soft passage, letting the notes echo through the empty hall. A new student walks by, stopping in the doorway, mesmerized. Behind them, the elite teacher appears and rests a hand on the student's shoulder. With a faint smile, he says, "Don't judge too soon. Greatness comes in many forms. In a world obsessed with appearances, she proved that soul outshines status. Her music didn't just play, it spoke, and everyone listened.